Certainly miss Pete's stories, learning about wars and movies and all those kind of things, as he was certainly very entertaining in his time here at Carolina.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm seeing Terry talking right now. We'll see if that happens. But off to a great start, 3-1. And anybody who has seen the way he carried himself here running special teams, not surprised at all to see him get a shot as a head coach, and not surprised about their 3-1 start either.
Not at all. We are now joined by the head coach of the Buffalo Bulls, Pete Lembo. Pete, appreciate your time. Know you're a busy guy. First of all, congratulations on the big win this past weekend over Northern Illinois. I imagine there's a lot of good vibes and good moves around the program this week, huh?
No doubt, but we're trying to take it in stride, and we got a really good UConn test coming up. They just dismantled Florida Atlantic last week at home, and we got to travel down there, so there wasn't a whole lot of time to celebrate. We got back pretty late on Saturday night and turned our focus to UConn by Sunday night, but thank you so much.
Coach Lembo, Chris Clark here. Thanks for taking the time to do this on short notice. I know you're busy. Want to go back to the end of the game there, and if you could just recap that for the fans here. I thought that was probably particularly fun for you because there was a little limbo ball at the end of the game there with you guys making a huge special teams play, I believe, in regulation to send this thing to overtime.
Yeah, well, first of all, I got to tell you, it's so good to hear from so many Gamecock fans on Twitter and things like that, and just the text messages. And, in a lot of ways, I feel like I've never left. And I think everybody knows that the Lembos are extremely grateful for the fabulous 3 years we had in Columbia, and that's home for us still in many, many ways. So just staying in touch with people like yourselves, it's really special for us. But, yeah, the end of the game, first of all, our defense played fabulous. The last 3 plays of regulation forced a field goal when NIU could have won the game. That sent it to overtime, and then we had another 3 fabulous plays of defense to force them to kick a field goal and block that one. So now our offense goes out there, and we could be pretty conservative and just get it in position to kick the game winner ourselves. So it was really an incredible finish to the game, and really cool that special teams played a part of it.
Coach, Wes Mitchell here. Great to hear your voice. And I'm curious, I know obviously you've been a successful head coach before, but I am curious, as the game has sort of adjusted, obviously, it's a different game than maybe it was then. What do you think your time here, having command of the special teams at South Carolina, and what do you think you maybe learned from that experience and have tried to pour in to your job there at Buffalo?
Sure. Well, whether it was Shane Beamer or some of the other guys like Mike Norvell that I worked for when I went back to be an assistant, you pick up some good nuggets everywhere you've been, and South Carolina was certainly no exception to that. But the nice thing about coaching special teams is you're still always building relationships with every guy on the roster. So I went from 15 years as a head coach to several years as a special teams coordinator, but that entire time your mindset never changes in terms of the relationships that you're building from the top to the bottom of your roster. So jumping back in to this position here, I feel like my time as a special teams coach really helped in that regard. And then the second thing I would say is just recruiting in the SEC and the competitive nature of recruiting and seeing what we did and how we did it at South Carolina, and working with some of the fabulous staff there, and having the opportunity to go recruit the places I did, like the DMV and the Northeast. It's really allowed us to hit the ground running here and put together what we think is a pretty good group of 5 type recruiting class so far.
And talking to former South Carolina assistant, now current head coach with the University of Buffalo, Pete Lembo. And, Coach, of course, the object is to go out there and win every single game. But in terms of the program overall, what does success look like for you in your tenure up there at Buffalo going forward?
I think it's always just reaching your potential, and sometimes you don't really know what the potential of your team is until you get to December and look back. I can tell you these kids have been on board since day one. They're really high-character guys. They practice hard. They play hard. They're resilient. They're poised. I think they've bought into what we're doing as a staff. So we'll see how it ends. But right now we're just taking it day by day, and it's certainly good to be ahead of schedule in terms of the wins and losses, but I don't think that would affect what we're doing and how we're doing it. We realize we still have a really long way to go to build the program.
Coach, you mentioned it earlier, trying to put that big win, 24-hour rule, I'm sure, in place, put the big win behind you, quick turnaround, get ready for UConn this week. For the Gamecock fans here who maybe want to check you guys out, can you give us just a little preview on a couple of things to watch in this matchup?
Absolutely. Well, our defense has really played lights out all season. It's been fun to watch those guys. They just have a zeal about them. And Joe, our defensive coordinator, was actually a GA with us at South Carolina, Shane's first year in 2021, and he's doing a fabulous job running that unit for us. So we definitely play hard and inspired on defense. We're still a work in progress on offense and special teams, but we've got a solid O-line and a good group of running backs and an athletic quarterback who can run it a little bit. So hopefully we'll do a better job this week of staying on the field offensively and getting those defensive guys more of a break. But I think overall, just we play hard, and we play with some pride, and we play for 60 minutes. And I think, knowing the wonderful fans at South Carolina and how much they know and understand football, they would appreciate that about this team. And hey, we love to be somebody's second favorite team. So to hear from all these Gamecock fans all the time that are rooting for us down there in South Carolina, it really, for Jen and I, it's really special.
Coach, a little less than 2 minutes here, and since you mentioned South Carolina again, I feel like I've got to ask you, I know you're in your own season and you're concerned with Buffalo right now. Have you had a chance to kind of keep up with what's going on in Columbia from a team standpoint, a special teams standpoint? I think Carolina blocked a punt against LSU, made some big special teams play. Kai's booming the ball. Everybody's still been thinking about you here. Have you been able to keep up with any of that?
Oh, absolutely. Following it closely and always rooting for the guys. And, I know Kai is having a great year. Kind of reminds me of 2 seasons ago. We know he was a little banged up last year, and to see him respond and just the entire special teams, but really the whole team. And I really felt like before I left, because, of course, it was, late January before I left, that we were really putting together a special team. And to see the success, how they're running the football and how hard the defense is playing, and some of the veteran guys that I've been around for 3 years and how they're stepping up and taking a real leadership role with this team, guys like Tonka and Boogie. It's just so rewarding to see, and in a lot of ways you feel like you've never left because our hearts are still there in a lot of ways, and the friendships and the relationships it's a really big deal to Jen and I and our entire family.
Well, Coach, like you said, you are still very much beloved here in Columbia. We certainly miss the history lessons and movie reviews in your weekly press conferences, but we're certainly excited.
Well, you just got to turn on the UB press conference.
That's right.
Just go to YouTube. You guys are missing out on your fix. Have at it.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time, Coach. Know you're a busy guy. I want to wish you and Buffalo the best of luck as the rest of the season goes forward.
All right, go Cox, go Bulls.
Absolutely. Coach Pete Lembo
Coach.
Up there in Buffalo. And again, 3-1 start coming off that big win against NIU. So things are rolling pretty well for the Lembo regime up there in Buffalo.
Same old dude, right?
That's right.
No surprises. Not surprised at all that he's still paying close attention to the Gamecocks. And, yeah, these coaches are in their bubbles, but they watch. They pay attention. I mean, if you're at that level, you're a football head. Like, you're watching any football you can get your hands on, I think. So, yeah, it is a busy job. We know they put in crazy hours, but I promise you he's probably watched at least part of every game South Carolina's played this year.
They also can get access to film very quickly.
That's true.
And fast forward and all that, all 22. Hey, by the way,
they don't have all those commercials.
Another former Gamecock assistant who now runs his own program, Jody Wright, tomorrow. Murray State head coach. He will be joining us.
Get the lowdown on Missouri. We should ask Lembo for his thoughts on Missouri, too.
Go Racers.
That's right. That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show, myself, Terry Ford, up next here on the game.